What's up, guys? It's K4K Crypto here. So Bitcoin's crashing, and you probably want to know why. Maybe there's a reason for it. Well, I've got an idea as to why. Let's check it out here. So the current inflation rate is about like 1.7%, and Bitcoin does about 144 blocks per day that are mined on average, and there are about 6.25 Bitcoins per block. So you take 144 times 6.25, that's 900 Bitcoin per day. You're like, all right, 900 Bitcoin. All right. 900 Bitcoin times 30,000, the current price as of this video, is $27 million of sell pressure per day. Because who's getting that Bitcoin inflation? It's miners who have to pay electricity bills they pay the electric companies to pollute the environment. That's the security model. Okay, so what's this costing the price annually? So you take $27 million, because that's how much they're selling per day, times 365. That's $9,855,000,000 of sell pressure per year. What? That's an expensive externality. Negative one, in fact. So the coins, they basically have to be sold to pay their electric bills so that they can get a little bit of BB profit, and only the miners get it. No regular user gets this inflation. This is not necessary. Well, for Bitcoin it is, because that's their security model, and they're, what are they, 12 years old now? That coin is 12 years old. There's better ways to store value nowadays. So let's talk about one that I'm fond of. So, how does hex.com compare to that? So Hex is a cryptocurrency that's an ERC20 on Ethereum, and so we don't have to actually pay inflation rewards to miners because we're not Ethereum, but we can be built on Ethereum, and we can have our own tokenomics for who gets the inflation of our token without actually having to constantly have sell pressure due to the inflation being the security model, which is actually a huge advantage. As you can see, for Bitcoin, it's costing them almost 10 billion a year at half of all-time highs to maintain the same price, right? That's pretty bad. You need 10 billionaires to come into the cryptocurrency every year to keep it at the same price. Sounds pretty bad to me. So, so that might be why Bitcoin's dropping. Just an idea. I'm going to go into some details of something that may interest you if you were wondering what could potentially store value better and what's performing better than Bitcoin over these past several years. Well, this coin has been around for almost around 3 years, and it's done basically the progress. If you chart it versus Bitcoin, it's doing Bitcoin's returns faster than it did in its earliest stages when its returns were the highest. It's doing even better than that by almost 2 times. So in basically a year and a half, Hex has done 10,000x returns from the bottom. And so that's pretty impressive to most people. I mean, it's such an incredible number that it just goes over your head, because you're like, 10,000x, what's that mean? It means if you put in $1 at the bottom and you sold the top, you have $10,000 from $1. So you put in $100 times 10,000. It's like you're a millionaire if you put in $100. You put in $1,000, you're multi-10 millionaire. Like, it's crazy. So why does Hex work, and why is it appreciating so much faster than these other cryptocurrencies, and why is it more secure than Bitcoin? Yes, more secure. So Hex gives inflation to stakers instead of miners. How much is being given out? It has a fixed max inflation rate of 3.69% per year. And since that inflation is only minted at the end of stakes, and staking is just where you decide a amount of time you'd like to store your money in the contract, your Hex, and then it will pay you some of the inflation of the system based on your shares in the pool. And so at the end of your stake, you get your principal back. So if you put in 1,000 Hex, you get your 1,000 Hex back at the end, and then you also get any interest that you're owed from the contract itself. It mints new Hex to give you and everyone else who staked for that time. But you only get paid your principal and inflation at the end of your stake. And so that's an important distinction. So it's not always 3.69% inflation per year. It's actually, some people have gone and they've seen that the real inflation is more around 2%. And you can change the number if it changes per year, depending on how many people are staking and stuff, because there are things that affect the inflation rate for individuals. Depending on how many other stakers are staking, you may get less or more of the inflation. So we'll just say 2%. So 2% of 581 billion, which is the total supply of hex, is 11.62 billion hex. That's basically paid each year to stakers, and only stakers. So if you're just holding the coins and you're not staking, you don't get any of that. So you are getting diluted over time. Just like in Bitcoin, if you are not a miner, you're just getting diluted over time. You're getting less and less of the circulating supply. And so at least in hex, you can actually participate as any user. If you own even a little tiny piece of a hex, you can stake it and earn interest in the system, or yield we call it, or inflation. They're all the same. And so I did a little bit of math here. So if you do 11.62 billion hex times the current price, which is 5.5 cents or $0.055, that equals $639 million, $630,100,000 worth of inflation has been given out for literally choosing, hey, I'm going to lock up my money for this amount of time, and then I'm going to get paid extra hex on top. The extra hex that was generated is worth $639 million. And that's just given to anybody in the system who decided to delay gratification and get their principal back and inflation paid to them in proportion to how much they have in the system. So that's pretty impressive. You're like, well, doesn't that cause sell pressure? And it's like, well, it could if it's chosen to be sold, but it doesn't have to be sold like it has to be sold in the Bitcoin model, because they're paying for all that hardware. You're paying for the facilities, you're paying for the lights, you're paying for the power, and it takes a lot of power in these farms to generate those Bitcoin blocks from running all that hash power. And so they really have to sell all these Bitcoins that they get in order to secure the network. It's the security model for to earn the inflation. In Hex, it's not that way. You can just restake your interest plus your principal and then earn even more interest if you want. And so you don't actually have this negative externality of having to sell the interest. Some people do sell it. Some people like to scrape off the interest, never sell the principal, and just restake the principal. And so we have a lot less of a negative externality in our system because we don't actually have to sell the interest. Some people do. And as you can see, it's actually a lot less than the current Bitcoin cost to keep the price up. Even if all of it was sold, it's much less than Bitcoin's. And it's a much earlier project to get into than getting into something that's 12 years old. There's already huge whales that own omega percents of Bitcoin. If you care about that, there's like, I think 42% of all Bitcoin is held by around 2,000 addresses. And that's not likely to change. It's actually, the whales are getting bigger in that system. And there's just less returns to get in Bitcoin. What did Bitcoin do in this last bull market? It got outperformed by literally everything. Like, wheat did better than Bitcoin. It went up like 4x, okay? And Bitcoin only went up 3x from the all-time high, from 20,000 to like 60,000. You could probably say it's like 2.2x or whatever, 2.3x, because it went to like 69,000 for like a day. And so, yeah, Bitcoin got outperformed by everything, only went up 3 times the all-time high, and it's likely to drop 85%, just like it's done in all the other cycles, down to probably around 11,000. And so, is that really the coin you want to store your wealth in? It will probably do better than the dollar over the next coming years, you know, especially buying in dips and stuff. But if you're only going to get a 3x in this last bull market, what do you think the next one's going to bring you? Maybe a 2x. Like, is that something to get excited about? Is that going to be life-changing? Probably not. Now, what has Hex done? Hex has done incredible. It's changed people's lives. If you go to hex.com, there's testimonial videos of people in a matter of months, even during some of the movements, people have become multimillionaires from putting in maybe just a few $100s, few $1,000s at the right time, waiting, and you're staking. One of the best things about Hex is actually staking your coins and pretty much just forgetting about it. Don't trade in these markets. You will lose. Don't believe the gurus that are telling you, hey, learn how to trade. You know, risk management. They say all these nice things, then buy my course and learn this. You know, and what you find out is that risk management just helps you lose your money slower. That's basically what it is. Who in the world traded and got a better return than just holding Bitcoin or Ethereum from their earliest days? No one has outperformed those returns. What did Bitcoin do? 6.9 million X from a penny to $69,000. That's 6.9 million X return. That means you put in $1, you have $6.9 million. In Ethereum did like 16,000 X. That means in like 6 years you put in $1, $16,000 in 6 years. It's like, okay, what? No trader is doing 16,000 X returns. But all these people, they sell you courses trying to tell you what to do. Like this, you find something that doesn't have bugs, hasn't been hacked, has a great founder, has great tokenomics, has a great community, and everything goes through these cycles. There's boom and bust cycles in all markets. You can see the stock market's down. You can see Bitcoin's down. You can see every altcoin's down. And a lot of people measure how good something is by like how little it falls versus other stuff. But really, the smart big brain thing to measure is how much did it go up before the big drop. If something goes from $1 to $2 and then drops 50%, is that better than something that drops 80%, but it went from $1 to $100 and then it dropped to 80%? And so you have $20 left, which means you're actually still up 20x versus the other one that only dropped 50%. Sure, you dropped a less percentage, but you're literally break even. From $1 to $2 is a 2x, and you lost half, you're back to 1x. You have the same thing you started with, but it looks better on the chart. You're like, ooh, it's only down 50%. And then you're like, oh, this is down 80%. That thing sucks. Boo. And that's what a lot of people say. They're like, oh, this thing's down more. It sucks more. It's that person who got in at the same starting point is up 20-fold the other guy. And most people think that guy got into the bad thing. The guy who's up 20x, who's like, it was like, oh no, I'm down 80%, but I'm up 20x in real terms. Like, it blows my mind that a lot of people think this way. But the big brain way is to think, where was it before this big drop? You have to measure these things, and a lot of people don't. So that's why I'm sharing this awesome knowledge with you guys. So there is no negative externality in Hex. Whenever inflation is paid out, the person doesn't have to pay for mining equipment, doesn't have to pay for lights, doesn't have to pay for electricity, doesn't have to do any of that. You just get it for delaying gratification, and you were going to hold it anyway, because that's the best way to make returns and store your wealth is in cryptocurrency. This is the highest depreciating asset class in history. It's the best possible thing to put your money in. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. I'm just telling you what's worked for me. I'm not selling any class or anything like that. You can get value at no cost. It's possible. You can get value at no cost in this world. So much free resources online. People feel better or they care more if they spend money on something. So, but a lot of people are smart and they can find value without even paying anything. So if anything, I would appreciate if you want to help me out, give a like the video, subscribe, put on the notifications. You want to see more videos. But let's get a little further into this. All right. Some people think that it's easier for the price to go up when you don't have to sell the inflation in order to pay for mining costs. Some people find that to be the case. I mean, I would agree with that. Let's talk about security. So Bitcoin has had 2 inflation bugs in the past. A lot of people don't even know that. 2 inflation bugs, you're like, wouldn't that be all over the news? Who would trust Bitcoin anymore? But it gets shoved under the rug and all the Bitcoin maxis are just talk about how it's defies gravity. It's a new law. Like, oh, it's the best thing ever. It's going to solve every issue in the world. No, it appreciates in value, and that's what it does best. But there's other things that are doing better in a shorter amount of time. And if that's the one of the best parts about cryptocurrencies is the appreciation, I think getting into one that's more secure so you don't lose everything, like it potentially has happened in the past with Bitcoin. In 2010, there was like 6 billion Bitcoin printed, and it was an inflation bug. Oopsie. And then just a few years back, another inflation bug was found by a Bitcoin Cash developer. Not even a developer on the Bitcoin core team. And they trustfully disclosed it, and they got it fixed before it was actually used. But I don't know. Like, imagine finding an inflation bug where you can mint as many Bitcoin as you want. What would you do? Aren't we lucky that that guy just decided not to do that and disclosed it? So Bitcoin has had 2 inflation bugs. That's a pretty bad security problem, I would say. And it's likely to keep having security bugs because they're constantly changing the code. Now, a lot of people are like, well, don't you have to change the code to upgrade it? Well, Bitcoin, you kind of have to, because people, it takes an hour for 6 confirmations on Bitcoin. And for Hex, it's only 13 seconds per confirmation. So what takes you a minute instead? Was that a 60x difference in speed for getting 6 confirmations? That's amazing. So it's faster, it's cheaper to transact, has less bugs. We've actually had 0 bugs ever in Hex. There's been no bugs, like for 3 years. 3 years, no bugs. No one's lost money due to a software bug, failure, anything like that. Nobody has lost money on Hex due to any inflation bug, any security risk, nothing. 100% flawless operation for years. And people are still finding out about Hex to this day. There's only around like 100,000 stakers or something like that. Imagine what happens to the price when there's 1 million stakers. 10 times that number. And we're only a few years in, And a lot of these things kick off around like the 2.5 year mark is usually what happens. I think it just is poor timing currently with the bear market where everything's down now at this time. But usually that's the best time to get in is around the bottom of the bear market. You wait, it's a little sucky for a few months, and then it just gradually starts going up into the new bull market. Don't be afraid when everyone else is skittish. That's the best time to buy, usually. All right, so let's see what we got here. So hex code is immutable, which I basically was describing earlier, but basically immutable just means it cannot be changed, it's locked, and it's been running flawlessly for years. So we're less likely to ever get an inflation bug. Whereas Bitcoin, when they're constantly upgrading the code, sometimes that introduces a new bug. The worst bug possible is basically an inflation bug, because that just means someone can just dump the price or double spend, do all types of stuff with all these extra coins, and it's horrible. So the whole point of the system is that everyone has what they deserve from the system and no more. And when you have an inflation bug, it's someone cheating the system and breaking consensus. You don't want that. So that might be why Bitcoin's crashing. Maybe it's because they have $10 billion of sell pressure every year. Maybe that's why, and they kind of have to sell it for the security model. There's better options out there, guys. You just got to find them. And when you find them, you grab on and you hold tight. Okay. So if you like the video, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Thanks for watching. It's K for K. Peace. Here, just for fun, how about this? We're going to give Richard Hart a call. There we go. Got him in the phone there. Don't want to show the number. All right. Let's give him a call. Let's see what he has to say about Hex versus Bitcoin. He'll pick up. All right. Hey, Richard. What's up? Just a quick question. You don't have to talk just yet, but basically everyone's wondering what your thoughts are on Hex versus BTC. Just, give them the quick rundown. What do you think?
It's a better design than Bitcoin. It's a better brand than Bitcoin. It's a better name than Bitcoin. It's a better community than Bitcoin. It's better game theory than Bitcoin. It's better price performance. It's a better price chart. It's better uptime. It's vastly superior in every way that I can think of.
Oh.
better design.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Better design, better, awesome. Wow. Well, you heard it from the man himself. Is there anything else you want to say? No, he hung up on me. Classic Richard. He's so busy. Anyway, well, that's the founder. That's what he has to say about it. Check out the website. Awesome, life-changing wealth over the next few years.